We are less than a month away from the 2026 NBA trade deadline. We already saw the first domino fall in which Trae Young got traded from the Atlanta Hawks to the Washington Wizards. And we're really starting to figure out who's going to be moved where and when over these next few weeks leading up to the deadline, as it does feel like the Eastern Conference is super wide open. And honestly, the Thunder have been sliding a little bit as of late. The Western Conference feels somewhat wide open as well. And before we get into the video, if you do live around the Los Angeles area or you're going to be in town for the All-Star weekend, check out the numbers on the board live show at the Belasco on Friday, February 13th. Tickets are on sale now on Ticketmaster. You guys probably already know about the numbers on the board show. If you're in town, this is something you don't want to miss. Link is in the description. And since we saw Trae Young get traded already, we could see the Atlanta Hawks pivot to maybe something else this year at the deadline. We know they want to get more athletic on the perimeter as well. They do have a little bit of draft capital at their disposal. They're around 500 right now in the Eastern Conference. They're pretty much 16th in the NBA in terms of net rating. We'll see if they're going to try to trade away Kristaps Porzingis' expiring contract, or they're going to try to upgrade from Onyeka Okongwu. Would they actually part ways with their #1 overall pick from the 2024 draft in Zachary Risache, who's definitely been floated around in rumors this year? We already saw the Washington Wizards make a big splash going out and getting Trae Young. It is kind of funny that we're not expected to see Trae Young too much in the second half of this year's NBA season, because they want to have with 100% certainty that they're going to keep their top 8 protected first round pick in the 2026 draft. But I've enjoyed watching Trey Johnson, Alex Sarr, and the rest of this young core this year in Washington, that I'm super excited to see Trae Young facilitate and be the floor general for this young core going forward. I wonder if they would part ways with still Marvin Bagley this year at the deadline, who's making the veteran minimum. Would they find somebody to overpay for a Cam Whitmore or a Justin Champagnie if a team is looking for an athletic wing at the deadline as well? And I'm sure Chris Middleton would like to be traded. I think he's more likely to get bought out this year after the deadline and join some type of contender in the buyout market. Michael Porter Jr. would also be one of the biggest names on the trade block this year. If you would have told the Nets that you could maybe get multiple first round picks for Michael Porter Jr. after they acquired him from Denver, they would have thought that was the greatest thing ever, because Denver had to attach a 2032 unprotected first round pick to Michael Porter Jr.'s contract after an injured playoff run to go out and get Cam Johnson. Now, Michael Porter Jr. has been playing like a legitimate all-star this year. 26 points, 7.5 rebounds, 3.5 assists. He's shooting about 50% from the field, 41% from 3, and 82% from the free throw line, and he's still just 27 years old. It's not like these are empty stats on a bad team. Yes, the Nets aren't a good team, but they don't have too much offensive help when Michael Porter Jr. isn't out there. You get him for $38 million this year, $40.8 million next year in his age 28 season, and then you definitely feel comfortable about locking up the 6'10 forward to an extension. But he's playing so well in Brooklyn right now, and that same Brooklyn team that I mentioned does not own their first round pick next year, so you may have to overpay for Michael Porter Jr. Would a team like the Detroit Pistons look to go get Michael Porter Jr. this year at the deadline? They can easily get to the matching salary with Tobias Harris and Karis LeVert, two guys that haven't really been that much of impact players for the #1 seed in the Eastern Conference. And now you can get Michael Porter Jr. alongside Cade Cunningham without giving up a Ron Holland, a Sar Thompson, or a Jalen Duren. You can maybe even keep Jaden Ivey in this trade as well, because Detroit, I think, would be comfortable giving up future first round draft capital because their core is so good and so young right now. I'm not worried about this team picking in the lottery for the next 5, maybe 10 plus years. And Cade Cunningham has been playing like a top 10, close to a top 5 player in the league this year. And this could be the first time the Detroit Pistons go back to the conference finals since 2008. And I think there'd be other shooters as well for Michael Porter Jr. Would the Golden State Warriors try to attach Jonathan Kuminga's salary to go out and get MPJ? It might cost them multiple first round picks. Could Miami look for another scorer on the trade market? What about San Antonio? They could definitely use a Michael Porter Jr. next to a Victor Wembanyama, or maybe there's a desperation LA Clippers move as well. And when you're talking about desperation moves, yeah, I always got to talk about the Milwaukee Bucks in there. And the biggest name that was potentially going to be traded this year, Anthony Davis, is now in limbo because he suffered a hand injury last week and is maybe going to have surgery on that hand and could miss a number of months, which is now just putting the rest of his season in jeopardy. Anthony Davis was slated to be a free agent in the 2027 offseason, where he does have a $50 or so million player option for the 2028 season. All signs pointed to either Anthony Davis signing an extension with Dallas or getting traded. And with Dallas being about 10 games under 500, we all thought Anthony Davis was going to get traded. Nico Harrison, the GM that traded for Anthony Davis, is no longer there. The Mavericks own their first round pick in 2026, but they don't own it directly till the 2030 2031 NBA draft. So this is now a massive curveball thrown into Dallas's way if they're going to even find a suitor for Anthony Davis, who's 32 years old, who's already had numerous injuries this year, let alone the injuries he had last year in Dallas. He's had calf injuries, eye injuries. Now he has this hand injury where it's ligament damage, and that is just not going to be reassuring whatsoever. Anthony Davis was still playing some really good basketball as of late before he got hurt, and now this feels like a massive blow to the trade market in general, where Anthony Davis is not going to be a New York Knick or an Atlanta Hawk or a team that was looking for this upgraded rim protector that could be great out of the short roll. That's this proven veteran that's won a title before that could maybe elevate their ceiling. And I think unless we get some confirmation that AD would be back in March, I don't think he's getting traded this year, because even if the Mavericks still wanted to trade him at this year's deadline, who's giving up any type of valuable assets for somebody that's really struggled to stay healthy over the last year? And then you got to mention his name as well. I talked about the team, but the Milwaukee Bucks, you got to talk about Giannis Antetokounmpo. We still don't really know how that meeting went between Giannis's agent and the Milwaukee Bucks' front office. Shams Charania reported a couple weeks ago that we were going to learn Milwaukee's future with Giannis and their fate over the next few weeks. Well, Milwaukee has still not really turned their record around too much. And yes, I know the Eastern Conference is wide open. I don't really think this team is competing for an NBA Finals this year. And as you get closer to Giannis's free agency, you're going to lose some value in a trade. Giannis is already 31 years old. He could be a free agent at the end of the 2027 season. And I can't really see a team trading a absolute haul for just one playoff run under this contract. You would get so much more for him if you traded him this year at the deadline, guaranteeing a team at least 2 years of Giannis Antetokounmpo in the postseason. But I'm sure those teams would also like a guarantee that he would sign an extension with that team this upcoming offseason. I don't know though. I just feel like Milwaukee may just go the opposite route and try to trade for some type of high-end role player next to Giannis. And we recently learned that for the first time since drafting him in the 2019 draft, the Memphis Grizzlies would actually be open to trading away Ja Morant. Shams Charania reported last Friday that the Grizzlies are entertaining trade offers if teams wanted to throw something their way. We recently saw Trae Young get traded for pretty much matching salary. He went for CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert. Would Ja Morant go for something similar? Ja is about a year younger than Trae Young at 26 years old. He's a little bit better of a defender than Trae Young, but not as good of a shooter. But Ja Morant is also under contract for the next 3 years, including this one. $39.5 million this year, $42 million in 2027, and $44.8 million in 2028. So it's not like you have to give Ja Morant this new massive extension on top of his post-rookie contract extension that he's currently on. I expect a lot of teams that were rumored for Trae Young could be interested in some way, shape, or form for Ja Morant. Could you see a team like Dallas, Houston, Minnesota, Toronto look to upgrade their status in their conferences right now? Is Sacramento going to take a swing on Ja Morant? Could we see Brooklyn? Could we see the Clippers? Could we see the Suns throw their hat in the Ja Morant race this year? And there is a good chance that Ja Morant is traded this year at the deadline, which is just kind of a completely different 180 than what we thought Ja Morant was going to be in Memphis when we were watching Ja go to the Western Conference semifinals against the Warriors in 2022, lead the Grizzlies to a 2-seeded Western Conference appearance in 2023 after winning 51 games. But since that playoff appearance in which they lost in round number 1 to the 7-seeded Lakers, it's been going downhill. He got suspended and injured in 2024, only playing 9 games that season. Last year, he was also banged up for Memphis, in which they lost in 4 to the Oklahoma City Thunder in round 1, a series in which Ja got hurt in. And this year, Ja's also struggled to stay healthy at times. He's shooting 40% from the field and 20% from 3. I'm not sure any team is really lining up right now to give them a haul of draft capital or young assets for Ja Morant at this point. It does feel like his value is probably the lowest it's ever been in his NBA career. Jonathan Kuminga becomes trade eligible on January 15th. I feel like he might get traded at 12:01 Eastern time on January 15th, given that he's not even been in the rotation anymore for the Golden State Warriors. I'm sure they would have liked to now traded him last offseason when he had a little bit more value, but Kuminga has not really looked the part this year. He's making $22.5 million. Like I said, has been out of the rotation since December, getting DNP coaches' decisions or just being hurt. But he's definitely going to be at the center of the trade market as well this year with that matching contract. There could be multiple 3-team trades involved. I think the Pelicans are going to be a fascinating team this year at the trade deadline as well. Anybody could be made available on this team outside of Derek Queen and Jeremiah Fears. Maybe Trey Murphy as well, just given that he's under a great contract going forward. But would a team actually give up some type of assets for Zion Williamson, who's actually kind of looking like the old Zion Williamson over the last 2 weeks? Would a team make an offer for DeJounte Murray? I'm looking at you, Milwaukee. Could Jordan Poole end up getting traded? Herb Jones is going to be eligible to be traded in a little bit. The Lakers need a perimeter defender, so would they go out and try to get an elite one in Herb Jones from the Pelicans to try to have one last-ditch effort around LeBron James. I'm not saying they're going to trade LeBron James, but it could make sense theoretically, although a trade actually transpiring is very low. Does Houston want to go out and get a point guard as well? They are going to be without Fred VanVleet for the next few months. There is a rumor that he could come back this year. I don't know if I want to rely on somebody older than 30 coming off an ACL tear to make a championship run, but you're the second best team in terms of net rating this year. You have Kevin Durant, Alperen Sengun, and Amen Thompson. I'd like to see them go get a point guard out there. Minnesota could be a surprise team this year at the deadline. They kind of have a little bit of a redundancy at that forward position with Julius Randle and Naz Reid. I wonder if they would trade away one of those for a point guard out there. Would the Clippers actually think about trading away Kawhi Leonard or James Harden now that their value has skyrocketed in a good way over the last few weeks, given that Kawhi has kind of looked like the old Kawhi and Harden's been great all year long? Or are the Clippers going to try to be aggressive at the deadline with John Collins' expiring contract to try to make some type of playoff push? And OKC has been sliding a little bit as of late. Lou Dort has an $18 million team option at the end of the year. Isaiah Hartenstein has a $28 million team option at the end of the year. What if OKC decides, you know what, we might not pick up those team options. Let's get some type of asset in return instead of just losing them for nothing in the offseason. I'm just saying, I'm keeping an eye on OKC now. I know they didn't really make a move last year. That looked like the right decision now in hindsight, given that they won it all. They're looking a little bit more vulnerable as of late. We were comparing them to the 2016 Warriors. Maybe that's disrespectful to the 2016 Warriors now, so I'm keeping an eye on the Thunder, who have so many assets at their disposal. What if Trey Murphy is actually available? The OKC Thunder can just outbid anybody else for him. Zachary Risache has been in trade rumors. Kristaps Porzingis has been in trade rumors. Every single LA Laker outside of Luka, Reeves, and LeBron has been in trade rumors as well. You could look at Daniel Gafford to get traded, Benedict Mathurin to get traded, Derek Lively to get traded, and obviously any type of Golden State Warrior outside of Steph, Jimmy. And I don't even know if I can put Draymond in that conversation either. Does anybody want the Sacramento Kings at the moment? I'm sure that Zach LaVine's available. I'm sure DeMar DeRozan's available, and Malik Monk and Dennis Schroeder. So I expect the Kings to be active sellers at the deadline. Unlike the Pelicans, they would have more of an incentive to sell given that they actually own their first round pick this year. That's the one caveat with New Orleans. They do not own their first round pick this year. We know that's going to Atlanta in that swap with Milwaukee. So they don't really have a reasoning to bottom out this year, unlike Sacramento, who probably would love to land a Darren Peterson, an AJ DeBanza, or a Cameron Boozer at the top of the 2026 NBA draft. And also for the Sacramento Kings, could we see them actually shop around Domantas Sabonis? It's been rumored that Atlanta or Toronto would be interested in Domantas Sabonis as well, who's been banged up in the 2026 season. Like Trae Young, like Anthony Davis and Ja Morant that we've talked about in this video, it does feel like Domantas Sabonis and his value is at maybe an all-time low since he's been drafted. He's missed some notable time this year with a knee injury, but he's super productive when he's out there. He was averaging 17 points, 12 rebounds, and around 4 assists on 51% shooting in the 11 games that he was healthy in this year. So if you feel like you can unlock something in Domantas Sabonis' game in your half-court offense, you might only have to pay 40 cents on the dollar for what he's actually worth on the basketball court. Domantas Sabonis is also making around $42 million this year, $45 million next year, and $48.6 million in 2028. So it is a hefty contract. Basically, the kings of the Eastern Conference, the Chicago Bulls, they should sell off anybody not named Montas Buzelis or Josh Giddey. Does anybody want a Nikola Vucevic? Kobe White, I'm sure, would have a robust trade market as well, and Chicago should definitely look to trade Kobe White, or you're going to have to overpay for him in the offseason maybe, or else he could just start to a completely different team. And Chicago should actually try to bottom out this year. I know, it's something they don't do. They love to be in the play-in tournament, but they should try to maximize their odds to get a top pick in the 2026 draft. I mean, just those teams in the Eastern Conference. We talked about Detroit. We talked about the Knicks. Could Orlando, Philadelphia, Toronto, Boston, Miami, even Cleveland make some type of trade to separate themselves from that pack of Eastern Conference teams in a wide open conference this year? So that is gonna be for me. I hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, I'd appreciate you dropping a thumbs up. Don't forget to check out the Numbers on the Board live show. Link to that is in the description as well. I'm very fascinated to see how these next few weeks unfold. Maybe the Lakers are going to trade for Jonathan Kuminga. Maybe we're going to see just a random NBA trade thrown out there that nobody expected. Maybe on the level of Luka Doncic, but probably not from last year. Either way, I'm very excited to see what transpires this year at the trade deadline, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.